All right. Hello, hello. So week 8. It's really hard to believe it's week 8 already. Hopefully you've had lots of learning, and as we've been going through, you've been having some aha moments and noticing how you actually do your decision making. So I want to just open up for a bit of an open frame and just let's have a chat. So I'll get you to unmute again if I can. So really just how was your week? Have you come across any blocks or any insights? And just again, we've got 2 weeks to go in our course together. It's still time to make an amazing goal. So how about you, Sharon? How's your week gone?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, I managed to achieve one of my goals. I'd set a goal to release that evergreen program by the 1st November. I didn't manage it by the 1st November, but I think I'd got it by about the 4th, so that wasn't too bad.
Awesome. Well done.
So yeah, that was kind of done and out there. So that's all good. And my blocks were interesting because it kind of came down to a bit of apathy, really, a bit of like, I think I said this to you last week, that at this point my heart was no longer in it. It was just a case of it needs to get done.
Yeah.
So it was interesting having that observation, just, so I suppose, yeah, the insight from that was just that kind of understanding that all three had had a conversation, all three had come to the room and heart and gut were like, yeah, but they got it that the brain was saying, well, we've just got to push through this. So yeah, so it was kind of interesting just having an awareness of the process in a sense, almost like a bystander.
Absolutely. It's like going meta and looking in and going, how are these, like watching a group of 3 people having a conversation. How are they
Yeah.
actually solving these problems? They've got a bit of a disagreement going on. How's this actually working out? Because that's another thing, you can use going meta, and maybe you've learned this or maybe you haven't. It's an NLP technique, and it's basically about you watching yourself. So
Yeah.
do you know all about that idea?
I still haven't gone into my NLP unit properly as yet
Yeah.
because there's been lots of things going on. But yeah, no, I kind of totally get the idea of pulling the lens out very much. I kind of that's a sort of
Yeah.
metaphor that works well for me, is kind of lens in, lens out.
Yes.
But yeah,
And
that
that's
works.
exactly it. So if you say you're having a conversation, and like we are doing personal development, this is what we love. So we've got that emotional intelligence. We don't mind looking at ourselves most of the time. Sometimes, we have our own blocks about our own evolution as well. So being meta is like, imagine you're in a conversation with someone and it's not going well, and you can't quite figure out, you want this conversation to go well. It's almost like you become meta and you are watching the conversation that you're having with this person, almost from third person. It takes practice. It takes a lot of practice, but it's really quite fascinating once you get into it, because when you have that mental strength to be able to go meta, you can almost see, this is what's going on. I'm watching, the conversation going backwards and forwards, and that's why there's that disconnect there. So going meta is quite an amazing thing as well. And with the having the 3 brains in line, they're not always going to be in alignment 100%. And like, interesting what you said there, sometimes one of them is going to get a bit tired of it all. It's just like, yeah, okay, all right, we agreed, let's just get this done. The real thing is that the conversation happened. And
Yeah.
if something significant had happened in between that original sort of conversation, then I'd be checking in big time. Does this still suit? Is this still congruent? Is this still where we're going? And then, yeah, but there will be times when one part's just tired of it all. It's just like, let's just get on with it. And if you think about 3 people maybe running a business together, we're going on and on about how we're going to do something, and then one of those people's like, yeah, okay, we've been talking about this for ages, let's just get this done.
Yeah.
So sometimes if we just take it out a little bit, look at it from a different perspective, as if that was 3 people trying to do something, and 2 of them are disagreeing or whatever, then we know that really no good decision making is going to come out. If nobody's got any negotiation skills there, or any ability to be flexible or move or try and make it work, then we're not going to have a great outcome. So if we look at it like that, like we're looking at 3 other people maybe trying to make a decision, a business decision or some sort of family decision or whatever, if they're not all in at some point, you know, if they don't have an invested interest in it, then they're going to be the one going, I told you so, told you so, told you that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it kind of worked because obviously this is a relatively short-term thing in a sense, because obviously there's something else that we want to move on to, which they're all in alignment with that one. But it was just the kind of like, you know, like the brain kind of going, look, just got to do this thing.
Absolutely.
And they've gone, oh, like stop your teenagers, gone, fine.
Yeah. And sometimes we just got to go ahead and get it done. And like you say, now obviously you've got this amazing awareness that the next thing you're going to get into, it's all in alignment, you know, so that cannot not succeed. It's going to be successful because every part of your being says this is what we're doing. There's nothing arguing.
It definitely feels more and more right, because when I first started the entire process, I just kind of thought, oh, let's see where this takes me, and I didn't have a defined idea of where I was going to go. So it's interesting kind of, you know, tapping into that and kind of seeing, you know, where the alignment was, and there was so much alignment towards it that I just felt completely right that this is kind of what I'm moving into, is where I need to be going.
And so what you'll do is with this awareness now, you'll just keep sort of lining yourself up for opportunities where there is that huge alignment. Because, you know, in personal development, it's like anything, you can't unknow something, so you know it now.
We
know that if we don't take notice of signs and things like that, we're probably going to end up in a bit of strife. So as long as we are open to the listening, then, you know, it's you know, great decision making from here on in. We're still going to muck it up. We're still going to get it wrong. But we have a huge awareness now of the other parts that need to come into play. So
it's exciting.
Awesome. And decision making can be so much quicker. There's no toing and froing. It's like, oh, I want to do this. Nah, something's not quite congruent. It's like, okay, let's take the brains out on a date, in a meeting, take time and let them have their say. Let's fast track this now. And what we normally do is we'd be going backwards and forwards for weeks because it just didn't sit right, so we're not quite invested. But if we go, no, let's make a date, we're going to sit down, 3 brains are all going to have a chat, then you can fast pace your success and your decision making.
I actually shared it with one of my clients who was having a kind of wobble about her branding design, because she'd had somebody who'd done her logo for her, and she was really kind of like, you know, I'm in an iron about it. And I told her about the 3 brains thing, and she came back saying, God, that's actually really helpful. I didn't go with what they said. So it's so useful in so many things, really.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And when you start listening to people and the way they talk about it, they're talking about their brains making decisions all the time. I was just listening to a friend of mine the other day, and I mean, not all of my friends are heavy into personal development or anything. And it was really interesting because her words were, my heart said yes and my head said no. But she doesn't know anything about this mind, heart, gut. You know, I don't talk to her about any of this training, and there it is. We talk about this, it's in our language in any rate, so it's about listening to ourselves. Normally when we notice something, when we learn something new, we identify it immediately in someone else. It takes a bit of time, we can then identify it in ourselves, and then we start listening, and if we're coaching people, then we can start identifying it in them as well.
For sure.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. How about you, Dion? How's your week been?
It's
big expectation with the little one in tow, trust me.
As far as my goals, it's been good. I did have a bit of a meltdown. I had when I say meltdown, a few things got said to me, and then I felt like I went into a real fear zone, and I started having a lot of self-doubt. And and it's so funny because Sharon said it was about her friend and the logo, and it was about my business name and my logo, and I'd already had a business name and logo, and I was rebranding, and I put a lot of pressure on myself that I didn't want to have to be here again doing this again anytime soon. So yeah, I went into a bit of a spin, and it wasn't until I just got some time alone by myself on Sunday, and I was like, duh, just like talk to your brains.
Yeah. Kind of have to doesn't it? You know the thing though, you know, when you do something from your heart, you're doing it from your values, you're like, you know your time's so precious. I mean, all of our time's precious, no more than like being a mum as well. Your time's precious, you're putting your time into this is coming from your value system. If somebody says something about it that's a little negative, or you take it as being negative, it's going to hit you hard.
Yeah,
you just invested your entire soul into this. And so this is where we really need to learn, and it comes from self-esteem, but it's also about putting people back in their place nicely. Like, I don't actually really know what happened, but you know, if someone, say I was rebranding and someone's like, oh, you know, nah, I like the other idea better, or why are you going through this again, or something. Hey, look, thanks for coming and talking to me about it, because, you know, obviously you've been thinking about it, and the message goes in the middle. However, this is where I am in my business and my personal development, and I know that this is 100% what I want to be doing. But hey, thanks for coming and chatting to me about it, because, you know, it's a good friend that comes and actually, you know, voices their concerns or something. So it's really about you always, even if someone's really nasty, just turn around and thank them. Takes the wind out of their sails. It's like they're not expecting that. They're expecting you to come back with something different. So if you thank them, it's like, oh, where do they go with that? Then in the middle, you give them the message of, this is who I am, and this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing it regardless. Almost like I'm not really perturbed about what you think about it, because this is my life. It's kind of that message. And just as they're about to retaliate at that, we're going to go, but hey, thanks and coming to talk to me about it. I really appreciate that. And it's just like taking their wind out of their sail, and all of a sudden you stop them, put them in their place with, this is me and this is what I'm doing, and it's kind of not up for discussion. But hey, thanks for coming to me and talking to me about it.
Yeah.
Learning just some little strategies, because you know what, we will put ourselves down just like that. And one of the things I highly recommend you to do is build a journal, have a journal book or something, and put all your successes in it, big or small. Every single day put something in it, because you know what, we are so good at building ourselves a failure mountain beside us. And what we need to do is minimize that. Failure is only feedback. We need feedback to evolve, grow, build the success mountain, so that when people come at you, you've got something to fall back on. And that can be particularly challenging, especially like, you know, being in like a, you know, a newish mum phase and that, and you've got a whole lot of other stuff going on as well. Sometimes it can be quite hard, because it's probably one of the times where we really do lose some of our self-esteem, because we're trapped in this environment. We got this little person we got to look after with no instructions, and they keep us awake at night. So we're not 100% resourced. So therefore, often we're more likely to come back and think, you know, that was a hit at me. Someone's just having a go at me. So then we're going to defend ourselves. So yeah, just build your mountain of successes. And the way we do that is we have to remind ourselves all the time of the things that we've done well. And they don't need to be huge successes. You know, you might have a little one that's sick all day, and the fact you actually got through the day. Yes. And have it, you know, just get yourself a nice little book, or decorate it yourself, or buy a nice little book or something, and it's just your success where you're going to put everything that you're successful in, because we will berate ourselves and knock ourselves just like that. We're very slow to, celebrate our successes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Another thing, I'm not sure I've talked about it on this course. Maybe I have, but I'll talk about it again. It's also like the reset. Okay. So, when I first had my kids, I was probably pretty emotionally unstable, to be honest. I had a sick kid, and I had a really low self-esteem. This whole idea of parenting, what I thought in my fairy tale little mind and what happened was very, very different. And when I look back now, I just think, man, I was in quite a state, really. And so someone might have said something to me, and it might have rattled me for 3 weeks. I might have just, it just goes over and over. You can't get it out of your mind. And it's learning, and it's a mental strength, learning the ability to reset yourself quickly. So it might have got to the end of 3 weeks, and I thought, I'm not giving this person any more of my time because I'm sick of thinking about it. It's like, okay, can you do that in 15 minutes? All right. So what you do basically, because you're not in competition with anyone else, you're just really, even if competition against yourself, doesn't really sound that healthy, but the only person you're trying to better is yourself. And so it's like, okay, so that used to wind me up for 3 weeks, and now I got it down in 2 weeks. That's pretty good, and so it's the ability to reset. So, for some of the stuff I've gone through in my life, and I've just held on to it for a hell of a long time, it literally doesn't do you any good. It's only hurting you in the long run. And it's just that ability to reset. And, for some stuff that might have taken me 3 weeks, 10 years ago will take me 15 minutes now, because I do believe you don't just sweep stuff under the carpet. I do believe that if someone says something hurtful, you actually do need to feel that and process it. If we shove stuff under the carpet, sooner or later that stuff's all going to come out and get us. But it's how quickly we can process that and let that go back through. We don't want to be holding that sort of stuff in our body or in our mind, because that's when we get into the dis-ease. Okay, so, disease and then dis-ease. We're not in that ease and flow of life again. So it's learning, how can I reset myself? And a great way to reset quicker is to look at your self-esteem. What are ways that you can build your self-esteem? One of them is having like a success register, where you just continually write down the things that you're successful at. Because like I say, we will go over and over in our heads when we think we've made a fool out of ourselves or we failed. But if we can write that stuff off as learning, it's just feedback, failure is just feedback, and minimize it down, learn to have a bit of a laugh at ourselves when we, actually do muck up. And then, sort of go the opposite way and build that success mountain, then it builds our self-esteem. We become more resilient as well. And so when things are said, or things don't quite work out the way we want them to, then we've got, a bit of resilience there behind us, instead of just feeling super vulnerable. And often in that state, we'll become quite reactive as well, especially if it's something, like something we value. One of the things about values is, you'll fight hard. If someone upsets one of your values, you'll fight hard. If you think about the last thing you've ever had, like quite a, big disagreement with somebody, you'll usually find that they've offended your values in some way. It's one of those things that we will stick up for ourselves. And then we kind of go a little bit past that sometimes, and we really just do look at it and think, is that even worth our time and energy? Because if we look at how quickly we want to reset ourselves, if we get caught up in that drama of what they think about us or whatever, how much energy does that take away from us? So then we get to the stage where it's just like, it's it's not our circus sort of thing. So yeah, it takes a fair while to get there though, I tell you. Yeah. So I went off on a bit of a tangent there. So any rate, how's that new branding going?
Yeah, good. It got finalized today. So
oh.
and it looks really good. So that was awesome. Yeah. So now I don't know if I threw myself into that because, oh, what am I trying to say? So I've got one more week left to write to complete this program that I'm putting together. And I'm just finding like it's the final week, it's tying everything together. And, you know, I was so excited and invested and over the moon. And now that I've got to this one bit, I find that I'm like gone into procrastination mode.
There's your sabotage pattern. That's the unconscious mind working on a sabotage pattern. So you know, at that point of choice, do I sabotage or do I carry on? Because this is literally how people sabotage themselves. They'll come to a point and then they're just like, no, I can't do it. And for me, looking outside, I'm like, well, why can't you do it? You've done all the work, just tie it together. You know, everything's there. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I don't know. And then all of a sudden you get busy doing other stuff. And there's your sabotage pattern sitting there. And that's in the unconscious mind. Maybe, you know, there might be a thought there in your unconscious mind that you're not good enough to do the course, or what, you know, what it is you're bringing together, that you don't deserve to. Like there's a whole lot of things that can be sitting there at an unconscious level where you are just thinking, like you might call it procrastination, but there's probably bigger things playing at an unconscious level. And what you need to do is you know, be really high on being kind to yourself. I've got this, it's the last part, I just need to do this, I've got all the skills, I've written, I've created everything else. It's just literally tying it together. So when you wake up, and if you do, you know, you've got the time or whatever, because I appreciate you've got a little one, if you've got that time, it's just like, no, now I'm going to go do this. And then you're like, oh, you know, I'll just do this or do this. Count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go do it. So the countdown thing's a great thing, actually, because, you know, we tend to go off and think, right, I'm going to go do this, and I'll just put this on, especially if we work at home, I'll just pop the washing out, I'll just do this. Great procrastination or sabotage. Okay, and once we notice we're doing that, once we're consciously aware of it, count yourself down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go do it. And what you've got to frame up in your mind is once you start doing things, like you get to number 5, like this is serious. We don't play around with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is serious. This is a strategy we're using to actually get ourselves past ourselves, stopping ourselves, you know, doing it. So imagine, you know, you're going to come up unconsciously with a block, you'll go get busy doing something else. That's not probably actually going to be productive for what you're wanting to do. As soon as you notice it, count yourself down. No thinking. Don't even think in that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just go do it. No excuses. And then once you get in a bit of momentum, you'll feel amazing. And then, you know, you'll feel, oh yeah, I've got this done today or whatever. Okay, and if you sit down and you go like, oh, well, I just don't know how to bring this together. I do know how to bring this together. You know, just start, you know, putting the opposite of whatever those beliefs that start coming up. So, because this is the perfect time now for sabotage. But here's the thing though, you know, I'm not wishing it on you, but now you're aware of it. So just know that that's probably coming from an unconscious driver. That something's saying there, maybe you're not good enough, maybe, you know, you don't have the skills to do this course, or whatever it is coming up, and we just want to squash that back down because that's actually rubbish. That sort of belief system doesn't serve us. We've got a much bigger picture here where we're going out and helping people. That sort of belief system doesn't help somebody who wants to go and help other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, we're only up to page 1. All right, let's get cracking, hey? Okay, so the review. So we've talked extensively now about those 3 brains. You will be noticing, hopefully you'll be noticing yourself, you'll be noticing in others as well. When we notice in others, it's not so we judge them, it's literally so we can sit and observe and watch how this plays out in other people, because that's how we learn as well. We've learned about how important our values are and that there's a hierarchy in those values. Hopefully you have diarized in your diary or calendar in 3 months' time, make sure you go back through those values again, and just check in. Do these values, is the hierarchy you've got, is it actually going to be serving you now? Remember, if anything big happens, go and as soon as you can, go back and have a look at them. We've talked about self-limiting beliefs, meta programs, the different meta programs that can run, and then that goal setting using the 3 brains. And like I said earlier to Sharon, they're not always, the 3 brains aren't always going to be going, hey, yeah, let's go, and we've already been on this for a week. Some of them are going to get a little tired and just like, yeah, let's just get this done. Just remember, it's kind of like at that initial meeting, if we're looking at, say, 3 people together, that initial meeting, we all agreed that. It's just some are getting impatient. Also, the issues of the goals, goal setting. Sometimes, it can be that those different brains aren't actually in alignment, or maybe they could be in alignment. We just need to have that conversation. Okay, maybe, like the gut brain, maybe there's been so many issues or decisions or whatever's happened in your life journey that gut continually feels like it must protect. And you might have evolved in different ways, and now you're up for trying all this new stuff. The upgrade hasn't quite happened with the gut. Okay, the upgrade's not there, the gut's in the protection mode. I need to protect. What are we doing here? And then we talked about that time management, stress management, and the balance wheel. Hopefully you've had a little look at your own time management and stress. What are the things that stress you? Remembering too that often stress can be a perception of an incoming event. So, we might have 2 people who have the exact same, in the exact same situation, and they just manage it very differently. And then we talked also about the balance wheel as well. How well would your wheel run on the road if we, did a balance wheel? What's that, Dion? There's a great book. Oh, Sharon said there's a great book called The Mountain Is You by Brianna West. It's a fantastic book on self-sabotage. This is a superpower of mine.
Awesome. I highly recommend it. It's a great book for about self-sabotage. So it's highly recommend. Should you get to probably audiobook it, I think. Stick in your ears.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for sharing. So week 8 today, we're going to quickly talk about the conscious and the unconscious mind and the 3 brains. Okay, so the conscious mind, we know this mind is the part of the brain that's what you're aware of. Okay, so the fact we're on a course, I'm talking, you're here, so we're all aware of that, and you can control it. It's that thinking part of your mind. So we're alert, we're using our conscious mind, we think, we make decisions, we solve problems, and we are aware of our surroundings. So imagine your conscious mind is like a spotlight on a stage. It is what you're actively paying attention to at any given moment. So just a thought on that, for going a little bit bigger again. We have our conscious mind, that spotlight, whatever we're actively paying attention to. But always remember too that we can refine that, and we can choose what we want to pay attention to. Sometimes we just kind of go along for the ride. It's like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing today. Oh, those are those terrible thoughts. Yeah. We just go along with it all. But the point of power is always in the moment. And it's the moment that you become an awareness of something, and you just think, oh, no, actually, I'm going to change the way I do that. Your conscious mind also stores that temporary information, like the basic stuff, what we had for breakfast, what you need to do. And it's also a place where you hold thoughts and ideas that you're actively thinking about. So with your conscious mind, it's those things that we're actively thinking about. Also, like if we're mastering a skill, when we are learning how to master that skill, we consciously have to think about the different parts of what we're doing. And when we master that skill, it then drops into the unconscious mind. Because imagine if in your conscious mind there was everything, like the fact you're going to go and make yourself a cup of tea. You have to walk, you have to move your legs, you have to go to the kitchen, you have to turn the jug on, you have to get the tea bag out, you have to get the milk out. Okay, so if we had to remember all of that stuff, we'd literally go nuts. All right, so once we master a skill, it drops into unconscious mind, and that's when we work pretty well out of automatic pilot. So your conscious mind is the part of the mind you're using while you're awake and actively thinking. So the conscious mind, it's like the iceberg. It's that top part there of the iceberg. Everything we're aware of. So the example obviously is like driving a car. When we learn to drive a car, we have to think about everything. We sit there, we think we have to put our seatbelt on, we have to put the key in the ignition or whatever, however we start our cars now. That story's changed now. You know, whatever it is we need to do to get that car going and keep it on the road and watching out for traffic. And then we master that skill so well that we've driven from A to B. We can't actually even remember the journey. However, we know we've done it safely. Okay, so that's the power of something dropping into the unconscious mind. And just be aware too, if we master a skill, good or bad. So sometimes people will master a skill that's not great for them. Maybe it's something they've done in survival that's kept themselves safe. Maybe it's not a good skill at all. However, once we master that skill, it will drop into our unconscious mind. Okay, so the unconscious mind, that bit that sits underneath. So we tend to talk about the conscious mind being 5% or so, and then the unconscious mind being the other 95%. So this is the part below that we can't see. And in that unconscious mind is our values, our beliefs, our memories, our meta programs, patterns, drivers, sabotage patterns, all those sorts of things sit right there in the unconscious mind. And they are just running an automatic pilot. So let's now have a look at neural connections. So we have those neural connections in our brain. Okay, it's linking one thing to the other. So it's like a highway. So if we have a, like when we're born and we begin to learn things, that road is like a dirt road. And then we master a skill, good or bad. Okay, and the more times that we do that skill in that particular way, the more times we go down that road. And in the end, that becomes like a concreted road. Okay, and then we keep using that skill, and then all of a sudden that concrete road has now become a motorway, and then it's become a highway. So what happens is if A happens, we're immediately going to go to B, C, D, whatever. Those neurological connections are going to head straight down that highway because that's the path of least resistance. That's the one we know. So in simple terms, building the neural connections is like improving the roads because we're using them frequently. The more you use the particular pathway, the better your brain becomes at handling that skill, whether it's good or bad. So neural pathways also depend on that environment. So the environment when we're growing up has a critical role in shaping those early neural pathways. So we know that, we understand that. It can influence our unconscious thinking and patterns. So in those formative years, our brains are like sponges. So, you know, they just, when we're born, they have everything in there for us to survive physically. And then whatever's happening around our environment, then we're beginning to absorb those experiences. So there's interactions, experiences that we encounter, start carving those neural pathways. And that will happen at an unconscious level, especially when we're young. So we just do what we do because that's what we've always done. We've never actually questioned it. So a nurturing and stimulating environment can foster that positive neural connection. So, you know, a young child that's coming into a real nurturing environment, those neural connections will be promoting that emotional resilience and that cognitive development. And then obviously the opposite there is being exposed to things like stress or adverse conditions, which actually then lights up different parts of the brain. It wires up different parts. It opens up different, you know, motorways and highways, and that can lead to that unconscious stress response or negative thought pattern. So we've done a little bit of fostering over the years, and had children who've, you know, had pretty hard lives and things like that. And it's interesting because you look at them and you think, why does your brain just automatically go to that? Why does your brain just automatically go to the fact that this is a risk, or this, you know, something terrible is going to happen? But if you think about it, you know, is that something happens and, you know, we start building that gravel road, and then we start building a motorway and a highway, there's the path of least resistance. If that's happened a lot, that's where their thoughts are going to go down. And they're actually then lining up part of their brain that is all around survival. So it can actually end up causing like damage to their brain if they have, you know, a lot of stress in those early years. So the conscious and unconscious mind and the three brains. So the conscious mind is all about that rational thinking. We know it's logical, it's analyzing pros and cons. The unconscious mind is integrating information from the past. Okay, so the unconscious mind is developing a huge big library on what's already happened. And so that all sits there as a reference, and then something new happens, and our unconscious mind in milliseconds has gone to the reference that it's got. And obviously then that plays a significant role in decision making. And remember that those decisions that we've made at any time could have come from any of the brains, because we don't know, you know, like we know about these three brains now, but imagine the millions of decisions we have made before we even knew about this. Okay, so that unconscious mind can be getting that information from any one of the brains. So decision making is a dynamic process involving the conscious and unconscious. So we know that. We put the heart and mind and gut. They all contribute unique insights and responses. Okay, so the most successful decision we know now will emerge when these aspects are in harmony and all working together. And the thing about this is you're going to feel the harmony. You're going to feel the ease and flow in your mind. And you're also going to feel it in your body. So it's going to feel like the right decision. So past history and generational learning. So there's a lot of obviously past history that can come into our unconscious mind as well. So it can be cultural or social beliefs. So again, that's around that environment that we're in, the childhood experiences and the family dynamics that have played out in front of us, intergenerational trauma. So this can make its way down, and unknown to us, we could be affected by trauma that's been many years ago. Okay, so like for an example, say for me, like my grandfather was prisoner of war in World War I. Okay, and then my father has been a soldier in World War II. Okay, so I mean, I didn't have a terrible upbringing from my mum or dad or anything like that. However, like when we think, where are we going to get our next lot of food from, or are we going to get bombed? Is this person going to come home alive? That sort of trauma plays on a person, and it affects their behavior and the way they react. And then if you're a child around that, then you're picking that up as a truth. This is what life's like. Okay, so for a long time, for a long time, my money belief system was really askew, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I actually did some work around my whole money story. So when you look at it, my grandparents had been in the First World War. My mum and dad had been in the Second World War. There'd been a depression. I grew up with the stories that my mum would go down to the railway station, when the troops came in, and would be begging for money and things like that. Okay, although I'm the fourth child, when I came along, things were rosy. I would never believe in a million years that money would be tight. However, I still heard all of those stories. So then that intergenerational trauma still makes its way down, okay, in a very sort of indirect way. Also, though, remember, though, we talk a lot about intergenerational trauma. There's also that intergenerational wisdom that can come. And we need to remember that there's a positive side to that as well. Then there is that social conditioning. At an unconscious level, we learn as a child how we need to act, what is pleasing for those adults around us and what's not. We have that learned behavior. We learn how to get what we want, so we can have a behavior around that. Then that implicit bias. So, when a parent or, a significant person around us has a particular opinion about something, we can automatically pull that into our own lives. So there's a hell of a lot sitting in our unconscious mind. And then we know we've got our values and belief system sitting in there as well. So we come complete with a load of programming. So we come into this world and there's a whole lot of stuff there. As soon as we're born, we're in an environment where information's going in. So the significant people in our lives growing up would have used decision-making through a particular part of their brain. Okay, so if you think about this now that, whatever decisions were made sort of on our behalf, like when we were children, that parent or that significant person has been coming from one brain. Okay, more than likely. So this realization can often lead to a bit of empathy for decisions that were made on your behalf as a child. So maybe our parents made decisions and we're like, we might have a hang up about that still now. But if we realize that we understand that there's these multiple brains and maybe they didn't, and they were just coming from one particular brain. So thinking about those who are significant, as we went through our childhood, you can see how that decision-making process could have been very different to yours. And on top of all of that, it was different times as well. So then thinking about our own children, or like for me, I've got grandchildren. I don't know if you've got grandchildren, Sharon. No. When we make decisions, we're making decisions for them, like what brain are we coming through? So what I'm wanting you to do now is from the very detailed looking at this 3 brains about ourselves and maybe a few people we come into contact with. Now I want you to take it much more global, much more bigger, and have a look about the people who are around us. So there's no blame or guilt intended. However, when we are aware of these different decision-making strategies using the different brains, it can lead us to understand more about ourselves and others. And that's the big thing. We want to understand ourselves. So like when we're coaching or just in general, the more we understand about ourselves, then we know how we're showing up for another person. And then if we can have an insight on how they're operating as well, if this person in front of us is an important person, maybe they're a client, maybe they're a family member, maybe they're a friend. If this is an important person in front of us, then the more we understand about how we process and the more we understand about how they process, then we can have a better rapport with them. So a better outcome for whatever we're actually doing. Okay, so meta programs for someone leading from the mind. So I'm not sure if you guys actually had a look at different meta programs, but like I said, there's about 100 of them. You can just Google NLP meta programs. I literally don't have time to go through it all in this course. But if someone's leading from the mind, like people with their meta programs will lean heavily towards their natural decision-making strategies. Okay, so someone leading from their mind, they're going to be the strategic thinker. So meta programs such as the detail-orientated person. All right, they're going to sort by self. They're looking at what they're doing. They'll do option sorting and they'll be right heavily into procedures because that's what that mind brain does. Okay, and then if we flip into meta programs from someone leading from the heart, then it's all about relationships. It's emotional, external frame of reference. So they're not actually too worried about themselves. They're more interested in what's going on with someone else. They're very values-based because that's our passion, that's our heart, that's where that's all coming from, very people-orientated. Okay, and then we have the meta programs from someone leading from the gut. So they can be quite fast-paced decision makers because it's intuitive. They're like, oh yeah, I know that that's the right thing to do. They're very action-orientated. They want to get things done. Again, external frame. They're looking outside of themselves. And they're quite concrete thinkers. They're wanting practical solutions in the world. Okay, so those meta programs also come into the way people are processing through their different brains. Okay, rules. I don't know if you've ever come across rules. I learned about this in NLP, and it's different ways that rules sort of come into our lives. So you can have a towards rules person. This is a meta program, really. So a person who is always right there obeying all the rules. That's how they focus their life. Then you'll have the other person. We all know a person like this too, away from the rules. They want to be doing something different. And then we have this thing, my rules. So we've got my rules, your rules, society, and society rules. Hold on, I just went a little bit too fast. So it's really interesting when you understand how we are constantly talking about rules in our life. And before we get into personal development, mostly we'll be talking about our own rules. Like, this is my rules. My rules are actually your rules as well. Okay. So if we're in a conversation with someone and they're trying to tell you how you're wrong, that's because they're processing out of their rules. Okay. Or we've got society rules. So obviously we need certain rules in society so that, you know, we don't do the wrong thing or whatever, and you know, people know exactly what's expected of them. So it's really interesting to figure out where you are with your own rules. So I had a conversation with another friend the other day, and she was going off about something, and I said, you know, well, hey, look, we're all different, so, you know, each to their own. And she said, no, but that's not right. This should happen. So, whoa, there's her rules. So what you'll notice is, like, when you become really aware of how people get so caught up in their rules, so in effect there, those rules were being put on to me, but they're not my rules. So I just said again, yeah, hey, look, each to their own, you know, like everybody has a different perception of what they're doing. And again, she came back at me and she said, no, but that's not right. So that's coming from a huge reference structure of her rules. And this is how we do life. And everybody should know the exact same rules because this is just how we do it. Okay. But when we come along that evolution, you know, just doing our personal development, learning a little more emotional intelligence and that, we start looking around, we start noticing people talking about their rules. Because they talk about it as absolutes. This is the way this is done. Okay, and so some rules are absolutes, you know, like the rules of the land and things like that. But if you listen out, you'll start hearing people talking about the rules, and that's the rules in which they do life. And often people can impose those rules on you as well. So again, it comes back to that feedback sandwich, like I was saying to you right at the beginning, Dion, where you are literally going to put it back at them. Hey, look, you know, I really understand what you're saying, and I can hear you're quite passionate about what you're saying. However, I believe this. But hey, thanks for sharing your opinion, because I really did enjoy that conversation, or something like that. So we're going, oh yeah, I hear your rules. However, boom, in the middle, this is my rules, or this is what I believe. Okay. So hopefully in the next coming week, you might start hearing different people's rules coming up as well, because it's really interesting, especially like if you're going to be coaching and helping people, all of a sudden, you know, they'll be very to the point that this is what we do and this is how we do it. And it's almost like, silly you, don't you know this? This is how everybody's always done it. Okay, and they're operating from their rules. So I just thought I'd put that in there too, because it's just a good thing, especially if you're helping people and coaching and things like that. Okay, so how rules are working with those three brains. So the way rules interact with the heart, mind, and gut can obviously vary based on that person's personality, values, and circumstances. Over the next week, I'd love you to just listen to yourself and how you speak to others, and you'll start to notice your own rule structure. Because one of the things we want to do is we want to be aiming to having quite like it's clean language. We call it clean language. So as in, it's not preempted with anything. So when we're talking to somebody, we're not just shoving our rules down their throat without us even knowing, because it's coming from an unconscious level. Okay, so it's called clean language, where we talk where there's nothing actually tied into what we're saying. Is it your rules or a rule structure you've unconsciously inherited? So obviously we inherit a whole lot of rule structures as we're going along. Because the people around us, the significant others around us, we have no reason to believe that they're anything but helping us or you know, doing the best for us. So when we're young, we just trust people. Okay, and then we come to a stage where we might start questioning. And sometimes, you know, there might be a whole rule structure. We might be this person who's going out there and saying, no, that's wrong. This is the way it's done. All of a sudden, you know, you might notice yourself saying things like that. And that's when you think, okay, so I've actually got an unconscious inherited pattern sitting here. You know, does this serve me, or is it time to let this go? We don't know what we don't know. And as we learn new stuff, like I say, immediately we'll notice it in someone else, because that's easy. And then all of a sudden we'll notice it in ourselves. And then it's like, okay, so now we're at a point of power. Is this good for us? Does this serve this? Or maybe we need to dig deep and maybe change a few things. So being emotionally intelligent as we are, we've got amazing values. So we are actually in control of our rule making. Okay, and some of the biggest enforcement of rules I've ever seen is literally like going to mothers groups. Dion, might I say it? Where everybody is they're invested in their child, and you know, that's part of their values and their passion, and bang, they're going to tell you, you know, that you're doing this wrong or you're doing this right or whatever, but they're going to let you know. And this is often a time where our self-esteem can dip. We're not getting our sleep. We've got this whole new journey in front of us. And sometimes we just take that stuff on board as being a truth as well. And it's not. It's just that we're a little bit down. We don't have the resilience to kind of buff that back off to the person and say, no, I don't actually want to accept that. So once you listen to your own rules and become more aware of them, you're at that point of choice. Keep them, change them, modify them, maybe leave them as they are. And just when you're looking at that rule structure in yourself, make sure you're checking in with your mind, heart, and gut brain. Because if we inherit rule structures, more than likely they come from the one brain, that the person who has been processing, that significant person that's been around us. Is that going to fit in with our three brain way of thinking now for our own evolution? So a little bit to think about there. Okay, what I'd love to do, and we might just run a little bit over, but what I'd love to do is just do a meditation with you guys and just incorporate some of our learnings and things. So if you'd like to, you know, close your eyes or turn your video off or do whatever you'd like to do. But I'd really like you to just guide you through this meditation. So I invite you, if you like, to close your eyes and just relax. So just finding a nice sort of comfortable space there to settle into, closing your eyes and just taking that nice deep breath. Nice deep breath, letting your chest and belly rise as you're filling your lungs. And as you exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing any tension or worries that may be lingering in you. Inhaling again, drawing in pure, rejuvenating air. Exhaling the thoughts that may have accompanied you through the day. You are here, present, dedicating your time to your inner being and nurturing a sense of harmony. Imagine a soft, golden light surrounding your entire body. This light is a symbol of balance, the balance you aim to achieve between your mind, heart, and gut. Just taking a nice big breath in and visualize your mind as a serene and clear lake. The surface is smooth and undisturbed. Conscious thoughts appear as gentle ripples, like pebbles dropped into the water. With every breath you take, imagine your mind becoming clearer and clearer as the water settling, making room for clarity and insight. Taking a nice breath in, I'd like you to shift your focus to your heart. Picture the radiant sun glowing warmly within your chest. Your heart giving out a loving and compassionate energy, not only for others, but also yourself. Taking another breath, you feel your heart light growing brighter and brighter, illuminating the values that guide you in your decisions and life choices. Taking a nice deep breath, moving your attention to your gut, the epicenter of intuition and instincts. Sense a powerful current of energy flowing through your core, trusting the instinctive wisdom. It's ever present and ready to guide you, making decisions that resonate with your deepest desires and purpose. Nice deep breath and delve deeper into the alignment of your values and your commitment to living life by your own meaningful rules. Thinking of your core values and what's important to you. Is it kindness? Is it integrity? Is it courage? Creativity? Envision these values as stars in the night, casting a guiding light. Let them be your unwavering compass, illuminating the path you choose to follow in life. Just taking another lovely big breath and then contemplating the rules that generally matter to you, the ones that resonate deeply with your values and assist you living authentically. Visualize these rules as streams flowing together, merging into the river of your life. Some of these rules may lead you on a path of least traveled, but they keep you authentic and in harmony of yourself. Taking another deep breath and thinking about your decisions and your choices that you've been contemplating. Imagine the decisions hovering before you, suspended like a question mark. Visualize you being in an intersection of your mind, heart, and gut. The answers are all there. Taking a few moments to sense how your mind, heart, and gut can react to decisions. Do they resonate? Are they unified? Do they have good viewpoints? Does each one have wisdom to share? As you continue to breathe deeply, allow the wisdom of the three brains and the guidance of your values to harmonize your decision making. Imagine the decisions being embraced by a warm golden light of your alignment. Picture a path unfolding before you, a path that aligns perfectly with your values and your own meaningful rules. Visualize yourself walking the path with grace and ease, harmony and rhythm of mind, heart, and gut. Trust in the alignment within you. Understanding that living in alignment with your mind, heart, and gut is a journey, and that there will be times when we need to navigate, and that's okay. Your inner wisdom will always guide you towards the right course. With each mindful breath, allow this alignment, your cherished values, your meaningful rules to become your life compass. Trust in the flow of the path and find tranquility in each step you make. I'd like you to take another nice deep breath. And when I count back down from 5 to 1, you'll open your eyes. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When you're ready, just gently open your eyes, bringing that sense of harmony and alignment with you, the inner balance of your decision making and interactions, and being in ease and flow with life's journey. All right. How was that? Yeah, cool.
So good.
So good. Everything we've been learning about, and it all just makes sense, doesn't it? It's that ease and flow, and just how easily we can go against the grain. We go the opposite way. We go the hard way. However, we have got everything inside us to make it very, very simple. All right, lovely people. Homework, if you so wish. I'd really love you to think of a goal that you might want to achieve in the next 2 weeks. We've still got 2 weeks off. Don't write the small amounts of time off, okay? 2 weeks you can achieve anything, especially when you're learning this sort of decision making. You can fast track yourself. Remembering those small steps lead to big achievements. Take a note of your rule settings. Write down any rules you hear yourself telling yourself or telling others, and explore them without judgment. There's absolutely no reason to judge ourselves when we're doing personal development, because it becomes counterproductive. Okay, what we need to do is be kind to ourselves, be empathetic to ourselves. We've done what we've done because that's what we knew. Now we're learning something else. And often what we need to do is, maybe we've just come across something and we just think, you know what, I've just realized I do that and I don't like that about myself. We don't want to be too harsh on ourselves. We want to just actually thank ourselves, thank that part, thank whatever that was for what they've done for you in this journey, because that you only do what you know. Okay, so instead of beating ourselves up and building that, failure mountain again, we want to turn it around the other way and go, okay, so I'm not quite happy how I've done that. However, I didn't really understand that I was doing that. And I really appreciate the fact that, the younger version of me, or the version of me 2 weeks ago or whatever, has done that for me, because that's the way they thought they were going to keep me safe. Okay, so we're actually thanking that part for what they've done, that we're thanking that part, because it's easy enough to berate ourselves and just make ourselves feel like crap. There's no point. Let's just go back and thank that part for the role that they've actually done. And just take note of how you might actually sabotage yourself or others with your own fixed rule setting. Oops, I got a mistake there. So yeah, maybe start noticing some of those sabotage patterns that you might even notice in yourself, and it might be just around the fact that you've got very fixed rules. And like I say, maybe we've just inherited them. Maybe we've never had a reason to question our rules, and now we become aware of them, and now we do. So we just look at them gracefully with ease and flow. What do we need to change? thank the part that has got us to where we are, and then, you know, gracefully make some changes. All right, lovely people, what I'll do is I'll stop the recording there.